Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another little review from Classical Composer. That's me. So I'm going to be listening to and giving my thoughts about this piece from a classical composer's perspective. This piece we'll be listening to is Pneuma from Tool's new and latest album, Fear Inoculum, which was released in August, if I recall, August of 2019. Boy, it doesn't feel that long ago, but it's now been at least 3 years now. Jeez. So I've wanted to review their music for a long time and talk to you because I really like this song quite a lot. Now, this is quite a lengthy piece of music. Most of Tool's music is quite lengthy. This one clocks in at about 12 minutes. And, well, let's just dive right in and I'll give you my thoughts as we go along. Let's go. Okay. So right now, what they're doing. So I'm already getting a sense of Dorian-ness here. You can already. So the question already for our ears is, what key are we in? We don't ask ourselves whenever we listen to a piece of music, is it in B flat? Is it in A sharp? Or is it in, whatever key it is? We don't think about that. But our brain, under all of the subconsciously, our brains want to know what key it's in. And as musicians, as composers, our job is to understand those fundamentals, those subconscious things that are happening in our brains, those little questions, and kind of exploit them and kind of make sense of them. So just with this progression that they're doing. So are we on D or are we on A? Or are we on D? I have to reckon we are probably on D. Here's my reasoning. So when we play a power chord, there's two ways of playing a a couple ways of playing a power chord. I'm outlining it on a piano. So it's a power chord, by the way, it's just a root in the fifth, omitting the third. You have the option of doubling the root. You can also go 1/4. But I won't go into details about this, but if you follow the bass, that's just a D minor triad right there. And I'm hearing this not as an F, but I'm really hearing this as an F sharp. So if I was going to fill out the harmony, so to speak, maybe something like this. So it's actually a sequence of chromatic mediants, which are just falling thirds, which is very lovely and empowering. And they're going to use this as an ostinato or kind of not really a ground bass. Well, sometimes they'll use it as a ground bass, but they're going to basically be playing this progression throughout the entire piece of the length of the piece. So that's, again, the harmony. So the implied harmony, I would say, is probably A minor, F major, and then D major. I wouldn't say it's D minor. I don't know. My ears don't hear D minor. It's too dark to be D minor, even though. But we'll find out soon enough. Let's listen more. So I like how a little bit more motion. So a lot of rock music, by the way, a lot of rock music and Tool, lots of music in general, uses this principle of layering. And where that means is you start with something very simple, very thin, maybe one line doing something. For example, the beginning of this song began with just a clean guitar strumming this progression just over and over and over again. And now we're going to start adding little things on top of it. So we've got this, I don't know what instrument, some tom or some, it sounds kind of like an Indian tabla, if I can be honest. It gives a little bit more interest to the music. I love how he slows down. Tick, 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 tick. Nice little pitch bend. A little variation. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. So that's something. Oh, and also, there's our D major chord, by the way. So that's kind of finally at the very end. We finally have the kind of almost like a pickety third kind of quality to it. Pickety thirds are, by the way, when you are in a minor key. So, for example, and you end in the major. You find this mostly in Baroque music. You know, from the music of Bach, Corelli, Vivaldi, those guys. This was very common back then because you want to write, because the idea was that you wanted to write in a darker key, like the minor key, but you didn't want it to be all dark and depressing and hopeless. So you end it in the major, and it gives a much more uplifting, bright sound quality to it, and it makes people feel happy. So you kind of get that little flavor, that little hint right here. And also you notice that the rhythmic pattern was not 4 square. It was not 1, 2, 3, 4. Listen to it again. I counted out. I'll try it again. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2. Let me back it up a little bit more. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2. And then if I was going to write this is a fermata. And then hold. More. Guitar. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1. 1, 2, 1, 2. And you messed me up too. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Then finally, so right here, Maynard comes in on an A. We are. And this is, I mean, I'm convinced right now. My ears have already told me that we're in D. We're in D minor. That's, my ears are telling me we're in D minor very clearly right here. So we are. So this whole versed section that Maynard's going to be singing from this point forth, he's sitting on the dominant, and the dominant has probably the most amount of harmonic tension, classically speaking. It's got a lot of anticipating to resolve right here, and we're going to hear that once the second part of the verse comes in. You hear a bunch of the other guitars are also sitting on an A, a dominant. You hear a little bit of D in there as well, mixed in. It's hard to hear. There's our D. Finally resolved. Now we're on the tonic. Still the same rhythmic pattern. love that little change in the melodic pattern. Nice little hold, and then full overdrive guitars. Very artfully done. Yeah, that's just whole. That whole was, so we listened to the introduction, which is a very lengthy introduction, and then we listened to the verse. I guess you could say there's a chorus. I don't know if that's a verse. The verse and chorus are kind of mixed in between. It's hard to really pinpoint. It's not a classical kind of verse chorus song form, if you like. But what we just listened to, we could think of as maybe next thing I'll have like a little like sheet or something I can draw all this on. But we listened to an intro. So looking at the form, we have an intro, and then we had a big giant capital letter A. So, and we're gonna have an A prime coming up after this. We're gonna have the same thing once again. So the overall form of this piece is still gonna be an A prime, B, A prime, A double prime, I guess you could call it. That's going to be the whole impetus of this piece. So it's basically song form still. It's A, B, A, more or less. But it's just much bigger in terms of the formal blocks. Now, what was interesting was if we went back to, I guess you could call the chorus, but but Maynard's not singing, so it's not really a chorus, is it? Yeah, here. Love that nice little pitch bend. So when they come in and then they land right here, we finally feel like a sense of arrival has happened. Even though, how do you explain this though? Because harmonically, traditionally and classically speaking, we aren't really doing anything too different than what we've done before. We're still, that's the melodic line. So what's different, I think, is the timbre is different. And again, layering and making it fuller, that's kind of what I think is really breaking the traditional way of analyzing music right here is instead of approaching this as a theoretical point of view, I think a better way of approaching this is just listening to the timbres. And this is where the theory doesn't have nothing to do with it. I could just tell you, oh, it's just an F major. It's just 3, 2, and 1. You know, scale degree 3, 3, 2, 1. That's not telling you much. Instead, we could probably look at maybe the instrumentation or the what else? Maybe the timbre of the guitar itself. So timbre is tone color. You have overdrive, and we have this big giant slow slope leading up to this moment right here. I mean, you can feel it. You can feel it's building and building and building. Little of that has to do with the harmonic implications of the music, because again, it's really static. It's a really very static chord progression. It just goes over and over and over and over and over again. And how do you maintain that for 12 minutes without getting bored? Is you have to change. First of all, the rhythmic pattern is very interesting for us. It's asymmetrical. It's different. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. You have these little hiccups in there of these beats of 2 amongst these groups of 3. And again, this is what Tool's really known for is really writing these strange odd meters, which makes it, first of all, really hard to move your body to, which is why it's not as used as much. But when used correctly and artfully, like Tool does here, it really creates a sense of momentum and drive. So let me back up to this moment where we really hit this point in the, I guess you could call the chorus. I'm singing parallel fifths too. Yeah, very satisfying. You have the drum fills as well, which creates a lot more sense of excitement and interest for our ears. Great dropout right here. Back to the clean guitar. A little variation. A little build. This is almost like a transition, I'd say, because we're going to come back into the main verse. So again, we're still in dominance. So yeah, we're just. So we still feel like that is home for us. This grounding right here, when we reach a D pedal, right, a D power chord in the bass, that's our ears telling us, we finally landed. We're finally arrived home. But right now, we're up in the we need this low D to arrive, to really ground us. And well, let's keep listening. Love how the drums are playing against the meter. Hear a little bit of, I don't know what those drums are called. Again, it sounds like an Indian tabla. Where it has a very dry, what would you call it? Like an animal skin, like an animal hide kind of sound to it. But it's on a D though. You can hear it. This guy's this mess. Right there. This dream. Again, just a tiny little thing that you might not even have noticed, but I don't know. It's pretty cool. I'm gonna skip ahead a little bit because this is pretty much all the same. So they come back, they land here. And then they bring it all the way down. And we're 6 minutes into the piece, so we're halfway into the piece. And I think this is the great part, the great moment in the piece. So this whole piece has a sense of zen to it, I think. It reminds me a little bit of Indian, if I'm remembering right, Indian Carnatic music, if I'm not mistaken, where you have usually a constant something that's happening underneath. You can think of maybe like a cannon or like a drone, for example, and then you just kind of play stuff over it. You'd improvise over it. That's kind of what I get a sense of with Pneuma overall in general. And what they're doing now, this is great because they spend, I don't know, I think like 3 minutes building up to this really earned return of the of the verse and the chorus, which comes in, oh, I don't know. I think is it right here? Let me see. Yeah, so about 3 minutes in. So I just want us to experience this wonderful moment. This will totally get me beat. If I'm not demonetized already on this video, it will totally do so here. But I'm just going to not talk and just allow you to experience up until where Maynard comes in again. And then we'll go back and talk about it. So, whoa, what a ride, right? So, I don't know. How long was that? So we're at the 10-minute mark where Maynard comes in. And they stop right at the 60. So that's 4 minutes. 4 entire minutes of them dropping from, you can think of a graph, right? In terms of max amount of sound and layering and just overall excitement level, right? It drops. They just drop right straight down right here, right? They bring down the distorted guitar very quietly. You know, they have Dana just And we have just the bass. Then we have a little bit of just remnants, bleed over of the distorted guitar, if you like. And then they have this buzzing instrument, which I don't know if it's a synthesizer or some guitar pedal. I'm not a guitarist, by the way. I'm a pianist. I know nothing about the guitar fuzz boxes and whatnot, or I mean, I'm just guessing. I'm just doing the best I can. I just love this music. But again, we have just very quiet. We have all this excitement, and about halfway through the piece, just drops down, and then they have a slow build. They're patient. That's the one thing. They are incredibly patient. They're not wasting time in this build-up section. This you can call it, I guess, a bridge if we want to be traditional. So this bridges could last, I mean, anywhere between 15, 20 seconds to, well, in this case, 4 minutes. But it never feels too long. It never feels like we never feel like we're rushed to get going. But at the same time, we never feel like that we're just waiting. We're just like, we don't feel bored as well. We have, first of all, there's always things in the background to keep our ears interested. So with this buzzing thing, again, I don't know if you guys know what this is. I have no idea what this is. It could be some synthesizer of some kind. It could be guitar. I have no idea. Hear it doing. It might be a guitar, I think. It might be a pedal box, I'm guessing. I have no idea though. But they go on about this. I'm not gonna sit here. I'm just gonna scroll through a little bit more. But going back to timbre is how because the chord progression is so static, we have to make it interesting timbrally. We have to change the sound colors and evolve them. And they do this by layering instruments and by varying and playing around with different things, so to speak. So it sounds like they're just kind of like, okay, we're at the low point and we're just kind of just slowly building and building energy. And we bring in guitars, the rhythm guitars. Still, it's a clean sound. Again, very low key, not overdriven. A little bit more percussion activity. So again, it's building. Little stabs of guitar. And then the guitar comes in, little solo. We still haven't arrived yet, though. But you can sense there's more and more. More and more. And then even right here where we have the distorted guitar come in, we still haven't felt like we haven't arrived yet. We haven't had the big the bass drop, if you like, right? We haven't had the big settled down, the grounding point yet. But again, heavy bass drum kick, really building momentum. Percussion just really just going and going. It's chugging. The train's going. Up, go. This is probably the highest point activity, but it's not the peak yet. This is fantastic. This is the so-called return, right here, because right here, we're home. This is the point. We're at this moment. Building. We're home. We've returned. Now, why do I say this moment is the point where we've returned? Well, if we listen back to, I need to check, 9:24, okay. The very beginning of the piece. They're playing this. It's just varied. It's just distorted as well. They're chugging down. By the way, if one little criticism, this is nothing. By the way, I wish the chugging was just a little bit heavier here. It was just a little bit more, just pushed into the guitar a little bit more, and just was a little bit crunchier for my taste. I wish it was just a little bit more crunchy, but still phenomenal. So we're finally home. And this is, by the way, the same moment that you get, for example, in recapitulation in a sonata, in sonata form, where the composer would just kind of really just in the development section, he'd just he'd be exploring all these different ideas. He'd arrive on a dominant, and then he'd finally come back home. For example, and that piece where Beethoven would go finally, and then we're expecting so much anticipation, and then we finally come home. That, like, for example, just an off the cuff remark right there, just something. But that's why this moment is so important, because this is our arrival. This is we're home. And it's a really good moment because it was 4 minutes earned. It was not a rushed experience. It was earned. It was not forced at all. Tool has stretched out this bridge section to such an extraordinary length that when we finally get this moment in the song, it just feels like the most invigorating and empowering moment ever. I mean, it's an amazing moment in the piece, and it shows you what you can do with restraint, control, and patience. Is, again, if they made this maybe like half as long, the bridge section only 2 minutes long, I don't think this moment would have been as effective. But because we stretch it out for so long, when this arrives, it is just amazing. It's an incredible moment, and I think it also shows, because most viewed, I think it shows right there is, this is a nice little new feature of YouTube where it shows you where, you guys know, where it shows you like where people have watched the most in the video. So it's around this moment. So it's incredible. Let's keep going. Love how everything else just dropped out. Back. Love the drum fills. They're phenomenal. And we're back. And he doesn't just say anything. He says Pneuma. Oh, it's good. It's the title of the song. It's like we've come to realize something. My God, what a good piece of music. I love this piece. And also, he comes on the tonic, so it's really grounding, right? He doesn't go Pneuma like we did at the very beginning of the piece, right? We start on the tonic, so it's reaffirmation. It's just confirming to our ears, yes, we are home. And we feel so empowered and grounded. And listen to all the little The sound, by the way, is now very wet. There's a lot of sustaining tones happening in the background that I don't know the technical terms for, but you hear a lot of more. It's much more filled out. The guitar is sustained a lot more. More busy. Wake up, remember. A little bit more guitar, subtle guitar fills. Drum fills. And they're just going at it. Back down. Retardando. And then if you really hear, you're just left with that ringing, that chord again, just to kind of, I don't know, that's just a beautiful touch. I'm almost speechless. It's such a good piece of music. Anyway, that is going to be my analysis of it. It's a, wow, isn't that a good piece? Isn't that a good piece of music? Oh, I mean, Tool just knocked it out of the park with this one. Yeah, wowzers. So, with all that said,